Soon those will all be autonomous cars.
Yes.
Everybody's
very
sleeping.
near future.
Yes, taking naps on the way to work. I like this idea.
Such a beautiful future.
It is a wonderful future. Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live, our daily show here every week for you at Digital Trends. It's Monday. It's Monday, December 3rd, 2018. Thank you for joining us. I'm Greg Nibbler, and let's go through our docket of what we're going to be talking about today. So coming up here in just a few minutes, we are going to be talking about the future of transportation because we have Dirk Ahlborn from Hyperloop Transport Technologies, who's going to be joining us to talk about everything that they're doing. Hyperloop Transportation Technologies, talking about the Hyperloop, the future we all kind of want, this new form of transportation. He's going to walk us through what it is exactly, what their plans are, and how they're doing things a little bit differently. We've got Julian Chukatu and Jeremy Kaplan from our New York studio. So we're going to be hopping over to our New York office to talk about 5G. 5G, it's coming. When's it going to happen? Well, Qualcomm is actually having their event later this week, the Qualcomm Snapdragon event, where they're going to be talking about the technology that's going to run 5G, like the engine that's going to power it. And Julian and Jeremy are going to kind of walk us through that, what to expect from it and where we're at right now. We're going to have a special interview with Big Easy Lofton of the Harlem Globetrotters. Riley is going to be out there with Big Easy, so we'll have Big Easy hopping on the show. And right now, we are here in studio in Portland, though. As I said, my name is Greg Nibbler, and I'm joined by Adrian Warner.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for hopping in here. Yes.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
It is definitely Monday.
News. Yes. Oh my God, I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
Especially after that long, luxurious Thanksgiving weekend. I feel like this normal weekend is a little too short.
Yes, it is. But we're here to talk about technology, and that kind of makes the day better already.
It does.
So let's get to our first story here. And this is something, we kind of take a look at what's trending in the news every day when we come in here to Digital Trends. And this is one of the big stories, and it has to do with Uber and their continuing battle with Lyft and other kind of ride-sharing services. Uber is now in talks considering a takeover of either Bird or Lime. And if you're not familiar with Bird or Lime, those are the scooter companies. They also do a little bit more than that. But scooters, if you're in any major city, probably in the US, you've probably seen these pop up. And to mixed reviews, I would say, for a lot of people. But
there's a lot of scooter hate out there, but I think there's a lot of scooter appreciators who use it for commuting day to day. So it's a big market to get into.
It is. And I didn't realize this either, but both Bird and Lyft are valued at over $1 billion apiece.
Bird and Lime.
Bird and Lime, excuse me. Bird and Lime are both valued at over $1 billion apiece. Wow. And Uber is, considering takeover of one of them in order to expand their options for transportation. And that is, Lyft just recently purchased Motivate, which is a bicycle group. They now have a huge share of City Bike in New York, where they're going to be running out their bicycles. So I think it's this idea of just continuing to expand and expand and expand the options until basically we either drive Uber or Lyft every day.
I want to see what future things they put out that you can, ride share, like ride share roller skates or ride share hoverboards.
Yes, bring back, did rollerblades go away? I can't remember. Is that still a thing or not?
For some people, I'm sure.
Okay. Yeah, just share everything. I don't know about the rollerblades, so I might have to say no on that. But yeah, so Uber considering purchasing them with, which is a big move to continue to expand that. And, since we are live, we're broadcasting live on Periscope, Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube here on this Monday morning. So I want to hear your comments and your questions. What do you think? Is this something that you're interested in? Do you use scooters for transportation? Or do you like this idea of having those other options? Let us know what you think. And I am curious to see if people use them. Have you used any of the scooters?
I used Lime once.
Okay.
It was a terrifying 15-minute adventure of which I went up a hill slowly, trying to not wreck myself. But it is interesting. I'm sure a lot of users use Lyft and Uber already. So I'm curious to see if people are interested in putting it all under one umbrella.
Under one umbrella, yeah, just being able to have those different options. I mean, I suppose more options is better, really, ultimately, when it comes down to it. So we'll find out more about that when it comes to Uber and, well, Uber's possible acquisition of Bird or Lime. Let's go to our Read 'em and Weep segment right now. So this is something we do here every day at Digital Trends Live, where we talk about the comments and the questions that come in via our various social media channels and on the website at digitaltrends.com. We read them. We read everything that's posted. So Here's a little sampling of some of the ones that we've got. In particular, I do not read these ahead of time.
I know you don't.
I try to go
like
through
to be
this.
Fresh?
I like to be fresh on them, whether that's good or bad. Our first comment comes from Gordon Lai regarding the 24-karat discovery. Scientists figure out how to melt gold at room temperature. No matter what temperature a room is, it's always room temperature. Okay, that's, you know what? I mean, I gotta admit, they're right.
Womp womp.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, we don't have the drum sound effects set up for that yet. We'll work on that. Gordon, thank you. Thank you for your comment on that one. All right, let's go to our next one here. We've got Jay Gunther, author, regarding digital trends. Soon you can immortalize yourself as an AI chatbot, but should you? The comment is, just keep in mind that sooner or later people will upload all their cat videos to that server where you were stored.
Oh.
That's true. Would you immortalize yourself in an AI chatbot? If somebody could be like Adrian AI?
God, no. That's like a horrible future of awful trolling waiting to happen.
People are just going to troll you all day long?
That's terrible.
Or you would troll others?
Both.
Yeah. Just a whole bunch of trolling going on.
A whole bunch of trolling going on. I guess I'd be okay with being overridden by cat videos, though.
Yeah.
That would be all right.
You'd be okay with that?
I'd be okay with that.
Okay,
yeah.
So, sorry, Jay Gunther. It's the opposite effect you had there. Adrian's all on board with the cat videos. All right, let's go on to our next one. Taking a look as we go through this. And again, we are live, so we can see some things. A reference to Adrian here. Keelan just said, OMG, bot nozzle. Instead of
bot nozzle.
Knocking it out of the park. We're full of the jokes here today, everybody.
Oh, that's so good.
That was good.
Mind. Bot nozzle is coming.
Bot nozzle. Gregory
Years in the future.
Marcioni, you can soon have Alexa tell your big mouth bass to start singing. And this was a big tech story last week. The big mouth bass, Billy Bass, is back, now Alexa enabled. And we are getting one here for the studio.
Thank
I think they start shipping today. It's a fish that doubles as a listening device. I guess that makes you the bait.
Well done. Now, can you integrate it with your Alexa microwave?
There we go. There's some kind of this is something that's gonna work out. I can see this happening. Yes.
I can see this.
We need to combine them all. Full of the jokes. It's Monday morning. Drop in your cheesiest jokes and make them work.
Well done, Gregory.
Bot nozzle. All right. Let's continuing on with our Read 'em and Weep segment. Robin Osgood, Lady Rose of Kentucky. Maybe?
Sure.
I'm going to guess that's what that is. Digital Trends cops chased a Tesla for 7 miles while the driver slept.
Good segue.
We are going to be bringing this up here in just a minute. This is the way to get out of a ticket. I don't think that's probably how it works, actually. I know the end of that story. It didn't.
It didn't end well for the person in the car.
It didn't end well. But nobody. But, we do, it didn't end up well as far as the ticket department.
No.
For the driver of that car.
I could see people trying to utilize that as an excuse, though.
Yeah,
I
like,
just
it wasn't me.
fell asleep and it was autopiloting, yes.
Autopilot deserves that ticket. I'm just as upset as you are
just
about
forward it
this.
to Tesla.
I'm very upset. We'll kind of get into some more details on that story here, too, in just a couple of minutes. Actually, we'll hit that before we go to our interview, which is coming up here in just a minute with Dirk Ahlborn. So let's have, we got Ben 610 regarding how to catch a porch pirate, which it is the season of porch pirates. People stealing packages off of your porch. Everybody's ordering right now online and having those deliveries, and then you have, the jerk that's coming up and taking them. Ben says there's also products like Elephant Trunk Secure Parcel Drop Box. It's a locker that installs in your porch to safely hold packages. I really want to see what this looks like.
Yes, how big is this locker?
I don't know, yeah.
And who has the keys necessarily?
Right.
There's so many things coming out that are trying to solve this problem.
The Elephant Trunk Secure Parcel Drop Box.
Say that all in one go.
Yeah, say that one. Yeah, 10 times faster. All right, well, thanks, Ben. I'm going to wonder,
I
kind of wonder if Ben works for Elephant Trunk, is what I'm asking, because they just got a lot of publicity right there. All right. Michael Miller, regarding Chinese doctors have reportedly delivered the world's first gene-edited babies. Now, I'm not sure if you are familiar with this story or if you were on here when we were talking about this.
I did read a little bit about it, yes.
Yeah, so this is something that a scientist in China is claiming that they have done, that they've successfully altered using the CRISPR genome sequence, and were able to alter a set of twins to make them, they turned off something that basically prevented them from, and you can read the whole story at Digital Trends, would help prevent them from getting HIV, among other kinds of ailments. Michael says, made in China, will be stamped on the bottom of their feet. See, this is what happens when we don't read the comments. All right, there we go. Made in chat. Thank you very much for all of your comments and questions. Coming up here in just a few minutes, we're going to be joined by Dirk Ahlborn from Hyperloop Transportation Technologies to talk about the future of transportation. But why don't we talk about this with autonomous cars? Let's get to this story here. And this has to do with Tesla driver falling asleep at the wheel. So we brought that up in the comments, and this is something that I guess happened on Friday night, Friday, November 30th at just after 3 a.m. in Palo Alto, California. And police were alerted that there was a vehicle that was traveling 70 miles an hour, and it appeared that the driver was asleep at the wheel. This was in a Tesla.
Model S.
Model S, thank you. The Tesla Model S, which does have some autonomous driving capabilities. And the problem was they could not wake this guy up.
Yeah.
This guy was asleep at the wheel. And the police had to figure out, how do you stop an autonomous vehicle going 70 miles an hour on the freeway?
It was really, really impressive how they did it. They basically kind of formed around it. One vehicle went in front and slowed down so that the autonomous driving would also slow down. And they finally brought it to a stop after 7 miles and 7 minutes, which is already a setup for the world's best math word problem. If a Tesla is driving at 70 miles an hour, how long does it take to stop the autonomous driving?
70 miles, 7 minutes.
But they finally brought it to a stop, and they couldn't wake the guy up, basically.
Which, I mean, you got to be pretty out of it. And he was arrested for suspicion of driving under the influence. Suspicion, yeah. I wonder that I couldn't wake up during that, you know?
Very suspicious.
Can you imagine what this guy is like? He wakes up the next day, like, what?
Well, apparently he's the planning commissioner for Palo Alto, so he's not doing so hot right now. Probably taking a leave of absence, not sure, but.
Not the greatest, not the greatest move ever. But I mean, it does bring up that point, like the more, and that's kind of what I was talking about at the beginning, like soon it's going to be all autonomous drivers with everybody taking naps as you go to work. I mean, with the safety works out, the one way to look at this is nobody did get hurt.
Nobody got hurt, which is kind of a testament to both the auto driving technology and also to the police force that helped slow the car down and work with Tesla. Now, the confusing thing is that apparently in order to engage autopilot, you have to have your hands on the wheel every 30 seconds or something like that. I'm not sure if I read that correctly.
No, I believe that's right. And then, obviously, I don't have a Tesla myself, but it will give you an alert if your hands are not on the wheel. So even if the autonomous capabilities are there.
So maybe he fell asleep literally with his hands on the wheel.
It's possible, where he just had them on there. Or something went on with the Tesla technology that did not engage that factor of it. So I don't know which one. I'm sure there's going to be an investigation into that, but it does bring up, I think it does show some of the safety aspects of this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a positive story for Tesla overall.
Yeah, not so good for dude though. He's not having a good week, I'm sure. But there we go. So that was that story just coming out about Tesla. Let's see, we've got time, I believe, for probably one more before we're going to be going to our interview here. And maybe I'll just bring up this. It's talking about Apple AirPods, and there's a lot of stories that you can read at digitaltrends.com. You can follow up on everything we've been discussing. Apple AirPod, a rumor about Apple AirPods. Everybody loves talking about Apple AirPods, apparently. And the rumor is this, that we may finally get an update early next year. A lot of people wanted to see an update earlier this year. We're going to see it early next year, the Apple AirPod update, with wireless charging maybe arriving in early 2019.
Yeah, sounds exciting.
So do you use Apple AirPods by chance?
I use the really old ones that still have, this fascinating thing called a cable attached to them. And
weird.
They plug into your phone.
Makes no sense to me.
Model iPhone 6 or older. It's very
You have a phone with a headphone jack? That's old in its own right. So I do. So the Apple AirPods, the first truly wireless earbuds on track to be Apple's best growth product for the foreseeable future is the other part of it. So this is their product that is selling the most.
That's kind of sad in a weird way. Don't you think? That
they're
coming out with all this innovation and the thing that's selling the most is their wireless headphones. That aren't very good audio quality-wise.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're going to have probably a higher price tag, too. A couple cool features like a heart rate monitor, things like that, so if you drop over.
I like that idea.
AirPods.
A heart rate monitor, add in some kind of something for more waterproofing, I mean, would be great. But that's where we're at right now. So it's still selling. So I'm going to guess that people will be picking these up. But that's the Apple AirPod possible updates to wireless charging in 2019. All right, I think we're about out of time for the news. But Adrienne, I want to say thank you for hopping in here today.
Thank you, as always, for having me. me?
Absolutely, and joining us, and thanks everybody for tuning in to Digital Trends Live here every day. Broadcasting live, taking your comments and your questions and bringing you up to date on all of the news when it comes to technology and great interviews. Right now, we are very excited to be joined by Dirk Ahlborn of Hyperloop Transportation Technologies. Dirk, hello.
Hello, how are you guys doing?
Doing great. Thanks so much for taking some time to hop in here right now. I am just seeing the poster behind you. That is amazing already. What is that from? Like, what is that from, an actual issue?
Yeah, this was actually the first popular science cover that we got.
That is so great. I kind of want that for myself. So Dirk, why don't we walk through this here and do kind of the basic question when it comes to Hyperloop. I think for some people, there's still confusion on it. Can you walk us through what exactly your definition of Hyperloop is and why you think this is an important technology going forward?
Sure. So Hyperloop is a new mode of transportation. They call it the fifth mode of transportation. Basically, imagine a capsule filled with people of freight that moves close to the speed of sound inside a tube. And inside the tube, we're creating a low-pressure environment so that the capsule can go really fast with very little energy. So on one hand, it's about moving people very fast. And on the other hand, it's about solving the big issue that trains, metros today actually don't make economical sense. So they're all relying heavily on government subsidies. The Hyperloop, because we're producing our own energy along the track with solar panels, wind, kinetic energy, and because we are consuming very little and we have very low operational cost, can be profitable in a very short time frame. So that's really, I want to say the fast explanation, but it doesn't matter if it goes inside a tunnel or inside a tube above the ground. That's more something that is defined based on the route, right? Sometimes you're going to have to tunnel, and sometimes it makes more sense to be outside.
Right. And so that does kind of explain that. It's just since it depends on where you're going to be going from. And let's talk about Hyperloop. Now, you guys have been very aggressive in making announcements and saying, we're going to be going here, we're launching test tracks here. Where's Hyperloop Transportation Technologies at right now as far as when could we see this implemented?
So yeah, of course, you're right. We have been very active. So we have several deals around the world. We have two commercial projects right now. One is in the Emirates in Abu Dhabi, and the other one is in China. And we just presented the world's first passenger capsule, which was presented earlier this year in Spain, together with our partner Artificial. And that's kind of like building an airplane. So, it's the fuselage that now is going to Toulouse, to our R&D center for assembly and integration into the system. We are working in Abu Dhabi now on the whole design and planning process. So we expect to break ground there later next year. So, things are moving. The technology is a technology that has been around for quite some time. So it's not really that you have to reinvent things. Mm-hmm. But there's a big hurdle, and that's governmental support, governmental approval. So we have to create a new set of laws and regulations. And that's the reason why we are working with so many governments around the world. And, we're proposing our framework together with TÜV Süd, which is one of the leading safety institutes. We have been working with the largest reinsurance company in the world to make sure the technology is insurable, which is a very important step when it goes to commercialization. So there's a lot of work that goes into making sure that you're actually able to build something that can be commercially used, right? It's a completely new system. It's not a train and it's not a plane. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That's a lot to overcome when it comes down to it. Personally, I'll say this. I'm very, very excited about this idea of transportation. I love technology, and I love this idea of kind of rethinking just how we get around everywhere. But talking about those obstacles, you did bring up the government issues, which is true. That's a whole new set of laws and legal systems that are going to have to be figured out for this. But what about as far as consumer adoption? Do you think this is something that people are going to adopt right away, or is it going to take more education about it? Where do you think that part is going to play into it?
Yeah, I think that you're completely right. The exciting thing about it is that you're able to rethink everything, right? So mm-hmm. we have the unique opportunity to build a transportation system the way you would do in 2019. So how would that look? Because what we have today I don't think really works, right? With you, when you take a bus, when you take a train, even when you take a cab, or a plane. I mean, I'm going to be on a plane later for 14 hours, and I'm not looking forward to it. So from the user experience itself, it's actually going to be very similar to what you already know. So a plane already moves almost at the speed of sound. So you're somewhere around 500, 600 miles per hour, depending on which plane you're flying. So it's we're already used to it. It's not something really new. And when you're building something like this, of course, you have to make it something that works for a 2-year-old as much as for an 80-year-old. So the experience is not going to be, a thrill or a roller coaster ride. It's actually something, if you want, so fairly boring, but that moves you from one place to the other. And ideally, we're creating a much better passenger experience. That's really the goal.
So to start off with, would the idea be more just to cover long distances really quick? This wouldn't be like a commuter system in a city, or would it be more, because I've heard different theories, like you could build one from San Francisco to LA, and I think it was like a 30-minute ride, and correct me if I'm wrong on that, something like that, in theory, if you could build a tube like that. Like, is that more what you envision?
So, yeah, well, I mean, it would be 36 minutes, LA, San Francisco.
I knew you'd know.
I think that it would be amazing.
Yeah.
In general, again, it goes back to what the problem that we're solving. It's not only about speed. Of course, when you're thinking about speed, it's about longer distances, because you need to be able to go fairly straight for a very long time in order to get really up to speed. But the system makes more economical sense. It makes more economical sense than a subway, for example. So, of course, there are applications where much shorter routes make a lot of sense. So there's somewhat like a maximum limit to it. So when you're, it's not going to be San Francisco to New York, for example, unless you're building several routes in between. It just doesn't make a lot of sense from the economics, because, building still costs a lot, and there's a lot of developments for supersonic flights. So I can't wait for those. So airplanes are still going to make more sense on the much longer routes. But when it comes to, shorter commute, something in between 500 miles to maybe 1,000, the Hyperloop definitely is, filling a void that today isn't there. Because if I want to go to San Francisco right now, it doesn't take me 36 minutes. It doesn't even take me an hour and a half. It actually takes me probably more around 4 hours, right? Was getting to the airport, waiting, checking in, waiting for my plane, getting on the plane, taking off, going over there, landing, on everything that's that has to do with that. So that's that's kind of where it fits in. So the real problem we're solving is more an economical problem, which is maybe a little bit more boring for most people, because the general public is more excited about moving at the speed of sound. But that's the reason why you're hearing different types of applications.
I mean, and you're right. Like the speed is kind of the flashy part of it, but all of that back channel stuff that has to go on to make this happen. Well, I mean, with that, let me just ask you this: like, how long do you think it is until we see widespread adoption of this kind of technology?
So, as I mentioned earlier, we plan on starting construction next year for the first commercial lines.
And that's going to be in the UAE, was that it?
Yeah, UAE and China are now signed commercial agreements. And so we plan to have one of the first phases in the UAE done by hopefully 2020. After that, you and me, we can take the Hyperloop. You're going to have to sign a waiver. But it's going to take a little bit longer until we have the ability to, again, we need those new laws and regulations. So it's going to still take a little while until you have widespread adoption, because that's really the important part, right? Creating these new laws and regulations. And luckily, we have many countries, many governments that are supporting us. It's also important that you work almost with as many as possible, right? Because governments change, they change their mind.
Yeah.
Budgets change. So it's a fairly long process. So in these two commercial deals that we have in China and in the Emirates, we also made sure that they support us with the creation of these regulations. And we have presented the guidelines for the regulations to our partners. There's going to be some time to get safety records to make sure everything is safe, everything's working. And then, of course, you're going to have a slow rollout, right? So you're not going to move at full speed right from the beginning, but so it takes a little bit of time. I think we probably talk at least another decade until widespread adoption, and hopefully, the US is very attentive. There's a lot of different projects in the US that we're following, and we're doing one project, for example, from Cleveland to Chicago, where we're already done, or well, almost done with a feasibility study. So, it's really getting these governments on board and working together with them and make sure that we are able to roll out a safe system and as soon as possible.
I mean, I would love that idea of instituting one from Cleveland to Chicago. I think that'd be great. But just the fact that you have this set up now, you said UAE and China probably gives you a good blueprint to hopefully say, look, here's how it can work. Here's where the regulations, here's the safety issues that we have. So then you can take that to other governments and just be like, boom, we've already done it. I will say this, yes, if you want me to come out and sign a waiver, I will definitely ride in the Hyperloop once that one gets set up. I would love to. But Dirk, thank you so much for hopping on here today too. And where can people follow along? What's the best way to follow along with everything that Hyperloop Transportation Technologies is doing?
Well, of course, there's the different social channels from Facebook on the Hyperloop Transportation Technologies page, or Instagram under HyperloopTT, and me and my partner Bebop, we have our personal ones where we post things when we're traveling around. So, and if not, just send an email.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Dirk, thank you so much for hopping on here today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
All right, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Again, this is Digital Trends Live, broadcasting live every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you all the up-to-date tech headlines and news and great interviews like that one with Dirk Ahlborn of Hyperloop Transportation Technologies. I could probably talk about that stuff for hours, but we have more to get to. And what we're going to be doing next is we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be coming back and heading to our New York studio, where we're going to be joined by Julian Trocatu, our mobile editor, and Jeremy Kaplan, our editor-in-chief, to talk about 5G and in particular Qualcomm's Snapdragon event, which is coming up later on this week, where I think we're probably going to see maybe some more of the technology that's going to be behind 5G, but I'm going to leave that to them to talk about that. So keep your comments, your questions coming in here, drop those in. We're going to take a quick break. Back here in just a minute with more Digital Trends Live. And we're back here with Digital Trends Live. Thanks for tuning in. Drop your comments, your questions, anything you want to bring up right in there on Twitch, Facebook, Periscope, YouTube. We're on all of those platforms talking about everything going on in the world of tech, and we do like to see what you want to talk about as well. I believe we are about ready to head over to our studio in New York. 5G is something that's on everyone's minds when it comes to mobile technology. When are we going to get 5G phones? How is 5G going to change? What needs to happen in order for 5G to be implemented? And those are all things that need to be answered, but we have some experts to talk to you right now just about 5G in general, and in particular the Qualcomm Snapdragon event, which is going to be coming up. So why don't we do this? Let's go ahead and head on over to our New York studio. Hello, New York.
Hey, how you guys doing? We are here to talk about Qualcomm's Tech Summit, which is starting off December 4th through the 6th. And essentially, it's going to be all things 5G. You're going to hear a lot of 5G stuff this week. Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint. They're all everything's happening in Hawaii, Maui specifically.
I can't get over this. Why are they? So Qualcomm is throwing this massive event, and they're flying everyone to Hawaii. It's the greatest trip ever.
Yeah, I know. I need to go next time.
I don't know why you're not there right now.
But basically, it's going to be amalgamation of all these companies, journalists, and they're all showing off, 5G technology. It's going to also have the Snapdragon 855 is what we think is going to be called.
Possibly.
Essentially, I think that's going to happen on day 2 or something like that, looking at the calendar of events. Snapdragon 855, if that's what they call it, will basically be the successor to the Snapdragon 845. And for people who don't know, that's the processor that's powering phones like Galaxy S9, Google Pixel 3, LG V40, whatever, basically all the flagship phones of this year. The Snapdragon 855 will power all the flagship phones of next year. So, standard, new processor, cool. But
let's dig into it a little bit. So that we think it's going to be called the 855. We expect it to come out in the next couple of days from Hawaii at the most lovely place on earth. Enjoy it. All the technology journals that are out there, we have 1 or 2 people out there ourselves, just not the 2 of us, of course, here talking to you. So do we know or have any ideas about how Qualcomm's improving for this latest generation?
So we do know it's built on the 7-nanometer process. Apple's new chip is also built on that process.
So hang on, so slow down. So a new process just means that the chips and the parts that go into it are much smaller.
Yes.
So in theory, it's a little bit more energy efficient.
Yes, that's the
and
biggest
in theory,
thing.
they can pack more things into the same size chip.
Right. So basically more efficiency, better performance, that's the stuff you normally expect with a new chip.
Of course.
I think there's probably going to be some kind of a focus on AI, because everything has a focus on AI these days.
Everything is AI.
With more, especially with if you compare it to what Apple did with the A12X, basically they had these neural chips and neural parts, basically that boosted the capabilities of processing all this AI demands and queries. So expect something like that with the Snapdragon 855. And I also think naturally that because there's such an emphasis on 5G, this is going to be the chip that supports 5G. Will we see any of that in a phone that will be able to, just walk outside and get 5G? No, probably not for another year, 2 years, probably 3 years, who knows. But essentially, this phone supporting 5G is going to be a big milestone for all these smartphone companies, because throughout all of next year, you're going to see all these phones saying, oh, now it supports 5G, but it's important to keep in mind that it totally relies on the carrier, where you are in the country, because if AT&T says, and AT&T is still saying they're going to have a 5G rollout by the end of 2018, which is, in 4 weeks, good luck to that. But if they do, it's going to be in a very, very, very small select cities that they say have a lot of traffic. So, they're going to see 5G rollout in those cities.
So one of my concerns about the whole 5G thing, which so much hype around 5G these days. And frankly, at CES in a short month, the big Consumer Electronics Show, we're going to hear an incredible amount about 5G. The thing is, you, me, us, we aren't going to experience this for, I think, a long time. So to your point, yes, we're probably going to see a new Qualcomm chip. It's probably going to support 5G, which is great. Big step down the road. And when you can get a phone with this new chipset, and when whichever carrier you've got has rolled out 5G in your neighborhood, you'll be able to experience all the goodness, the gooey, sweet, delicious gooiness of 5G.
Yeah.
But like 2019?
I think we'll see products for sure next year. It just depends, again, on where you are. But, for example, one of the first things that we will be seeing a demo of, I think, this week is the Moto Z3. Motorola announced a couple months ago. And they have this 5G Moto mod. You slap it onto the back of the phone, and it gives it 5G capabilities. And they're working with Verizon on this. So I think we'll see demos of that this week. And that's supposed to happen. That's supposed to come out for people to purchase first month of 2019, so January. So, sure, if you can buy it, you slap it on the phone, and will you have 5G? If you go to
absolutely not
a city, maybe a particular city, you potentially might see faster data speeds in general because it will support that. But
that was my question. If you have a 5G module and you're on a 4G network, I think it should be more efficient regardless.
Yeah, well, it's going to be faster. No matter what, it should be faster because, one, they also think that the more people go to 5G, you'll have less demand on 4G LTE networks, so it should traditionally just but they've been boosting up the speeds for all 4G LTE for the past couple of years as well. So, I mean, again, I guess the sort of conclusion that we're coming to is you're still not going to see 5G again for another 2 to 3 years. At the least, I'd say, next year for sure we'll start seeing.
But, so here's the big question. So let's say that Qualcomm announces the 855 chipset. And let's say they come out and they say, hey, there's 3 or 4 really fantastic phones that you'll be able to get in the next, let's call it 2 months, just arbitrary date here. People shouldn't be looking to those because they're 5G, right? They might be a great phone. It might have extra functionality. Maybe it's got AI baked in. But nobody should be thinking about 5G at present, should they?
Maybe by February next year when MWC happens and people are launching 5G supported phones, maybe it's time to start thinking about maybe if you're going to spend $1,000 on a phone, which will probably last you for 2 to 3 years, maybe it started thinking about maybe I should actually buy a 5G supported phone, because by the time maybe, even in the next year after that, you might see a wider rollout of 5G that, maybe if it's not available in your hometown, if you do some traveling around the city, maybe you will get the benefit of having those extra faster speeds. So completely depends again on the carrier rollout. But next year, I'd say, maybe it's actually worth thinking about buying a 5G phone. If you bought a phone this year, just, hold on to it. It's, again, not a big priority to go out and buy a 5G supported phone. It's very early adopter. Just, take your time. Take your time.
Interesting words of
Carriers are
advice.
taking your time.
Let's talk about the AI functionality, because I agree. I think we're probably going to see that baked into a new Qualcomm chip out in Hawaii in the gorgeous pastoral scenery. What do you think that's going to mean? Does that, because all of these phones already do AI. Do you know if Apple does that functionality of having a chip that does AI, does that do anything different or special?
So I also sort of compare it to, I think, what Google has the visual core chip in their Pixel 3. Basically what that is dramatically helps help them take faster HDR plus photos, which helps them take one of the best photos, in all the smartphones. But basically, I think we'll see more Google Assistant kind of improvements as well, because that is some of the only AI built into a lot of phones that are running Android. I think one of the key things will be on-device machine learning. So a lot of things like, asking Google just to do something like, I don't know what example right now, but if you ask it to do something, sometimes it'll say, can't do that because I don't have an internet connection. So if you're in the subway and you ask it to do something, can't do that because you don't have an internet connection. But with on-device machine learning, maybe you can learn to do that stuff on its own without having that cloud connection, so you can just ask it to do something. Be more reliable, basically, outside of having a data connection.
That makes sense.
And also that naturally also means that your data is being secure. You're not transferring it back to Google, so Google doesn't know what you're asking Google Assistant. So that should help. Again, have no idea in terms of what exactly this will manifest as. It depends also on, I assume, the companies that are putting these chips into their phones, what they want to use it for. Will Samsung use it for Bixby? Maybe. Who knows? Do people use Bixby? No one knows.
No one knows.
So,
AI has this challenge of being too mired and connected to voice assistants also, because AI and machine learning is this giant broad topic, which is really has a lot of sweeping ramifications beyond simply being able to chat with your phone. So think about the vast amount of data that's coming off of your devices today. Especially, here's a great example, smartwatches, right? There's an incredible amount of data about who you are, what you're doing, how you sleep, your heart rate, etc. Being able to take that data and make something useful from it involves an incredible amount of data processing. What's good at data processing? This whole thing, right? That's what AI is. So there's a lot of other things beyond merely voice assistants.
right. And computational photography also. There's a lot of other things.
Classic example.
Depends on exactly what the company that's producing or using this chip for will want to utilize it for. And I think, I hope the companies do utilize it, because sometimes companies don't necessarily utilize all the features of these Qualcomm processors and chips. So hopefully they do, and hopefully that means we'll see a lot more interesting phones with a lot more capabilities next year at MWC.
Julian, you would be the man to know. One last question for you, since I got you here. Smartwatches. Do you know, or have you heard anything? You got any thoughts? Are we going to see or hear about a bunch of cool new ones?
Well, the good thing is Qualcomm just announced, or not just announced, about a month ago, came out with the Wear 3100 chip. I'm wearing one right now. This is the Mont Blanc Summit 2. It has the Wear 3100, one of the few with the Wear 3100. And it's a modest improvement I'd say. It's not the improvement that I was expecting, considering there's a 3-year gap between the last, or 2-year gap between the last one. But definitely signs of life. Wear OS is improving with the new update. Still not Watch OS, Apple Watch, that level of success or improvements, I'd say, but long way to go. But still, this is definitely promising, and we're supposed to see a wave of way more Wear 3100 watches coming soon. So I assume, CES, MWC will start seeing even more. But there's the Fossil Sport in this one so far, but there's going to be a lot more fitness-geared ones as well, since they're supposed to improve it. But this is still giving me about a day of battery life, so I'm not completely satisfied yet. So there's a lot more I think they could do.
Garmin Fenix 5, several days of battery life.
It's true.
This is a fantastic watch. Although the interface, the actual operating system, it's a little bit confusing. And there's too many buttons, and I'm sitting here frequently going, was that the back button? Is this the menu? I can't.
And that's the trade-off with the Garmin's. Everything has a bit of a trade-off.
You're right.
It seems like the Watch OS seems to be the thing that people want to hit.
Speaking of trade-off, can we talk about my shirt for a second? I feel like this collar is completely all over the place.
It's a little
It's a Gap shirt. It's just an ordinary thing. I just feel like it's weird. Is it weird? Let me know in the comments, please. I need to know if I have to return this thing or not. I'm serious, people. Tell me. Is this silly looking? Inquiring minds want to know.
All right, well, I think we are going back to Greg, back in Portland. So thanks from New York.
Actually, I have one more question, if you guys can still hear me, just about 5G in general. And, plus, we need to get the answer on Jeremy's shirt already. So I want to make sure we get that in there. But with the Qualcomm event coming up this week, we were talking about autonomous vehicles earlier in the show. How much do you think that'll be a factor in the upcoming event? Because I know there's been, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's been talk about using 5G for communication among different vehicles on the road. Do you think we're going to see anything about that at this upcoming event?
I don't know anything in particular too much about that. I haven't seen anything about any car companies or anyone making this tech for cars being present at the show. Maybe there could be. Okay. It might be mentioned in passing, but I really think people that are doing that might want to save that for CES.
Gotcha. Okay, that would make
what
more
he
sense
said.
To see there. Yeah. All right, Jeremy, Jillian, thank you so much for hopping on here to talk about that. It's always fascinating, and that is at our New York studio right there. We'll see you guys in a little bit. Let's continue on here with the show, though, today, here broadcasting Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and we are broadcasting live. We're on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch, and we want to hear your comments and your questions. And right now, we've got a great interview lined up for you with Big Easy Lofton from the Harlem Globetrotters. We've got Riley out there right now. I'm not sure. I believe they might be at the Motor Center here in Portland. But why don't we go ahead and go to this. Let's broadcast to them, and let's hear what Big Easy Lofton has to say.
Thanks, Greg. I'm here at the Motor Center with Big Easy Lofton from the Harlem Globetrotters. We're here. They're going to be playing today, and we're going to ask Big Easy some questions. So, really, how did you get started with the Harlem Globetrotters? What was your basketball journey from, the beginning to here?
Well, I've been playing basketball ever since I was young. It was a great outlet growing up in my neighborhood. If you was a basketball player growing up in the projects in New Orleans, you was safe. They wouldn't mess with you. They'll let you run around and have a good time. I went to college, and after college, I'm from New Orleans, and they had Hurricane Katrina hit. Our family lost everything. We evacuated to Houston, Texas. Wow. The Globetrotters was doing a charity event for the victims of Hurricane Katrina. I got to work out with the team while they was there, and I've been with them ever since. 14 seasons, 90 countries, 3-time loser on the Amazing Race, and I've been voted the best-looking player on the team every year.
Is that a self-vote?
Nope, I don't have a vote. I'm not allowed to.
So you've been with the team for 14 years.
Yes, sir.
What's your favorite memory thus far?
My favorite memory, there's so many, but the one that I always go back to, we was in Sacramento my first year, and there was a little kid on the court who was doing like something for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and we were shooting hoops. Me and him shot hoops the whole time. He really didn't say too much, but we had a good time. And the next day we was in the airport, I was flying out, and his mother walked up to me and she started crying. And she said her son he didn't speak a word for like the past 6 months. He was going through so much pain with his disease and diagnosis that it was the first time he had talking. It was to Big Easy. And what's up, Michael? That's his name, and he's out there. And just about last year, she sent me some pictures of him. He built his first computer, and he's doing well. So that's one of my best memories,
That's an amazing story. having so much fun with you, he's able to kind of work through the pain.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah. And he was talking the next day, and he was talking about me, and it was cool. You know, this basketball and you know, this smile just lit him up, and it lit me up. And every time I think about it, I get a warm feeling inside.
That's amazing. So with the Harlem Globetrotters, you also are the holder of 2 Guinness World Records, correct?
Yes.
Could you tell our audience a little bit about those?
So I have 2 Guinness World Records. One is a half-court blindfold hook shot, and I can't think of the how far it was, but it was right after half court. And I have one from 3/4 court, the longest hook shot, the farthest hook shot ever.
That's insane. So the half-court hook shot was too easy, so
blindfold,
you did. Well, no, I'm saying the normal one.
The
normal one was too easy, so you decided to do it blindfolded.
Yeah, I did it blindfold just to let everybody know. You know, we're the Harlem Globetrotters, so everything we do, we have to do it at another level. And, you know, just because you can do tricks and everything, the ball still have to go in the hoop. So if anybody try to take my record, don't do it. You know, another group of guys, they broke both of them the next year, and I took them right back. So, you know, if you want to waste your time, go ahead. I'm up for it. I have none but time on my hand.
So you guys just recently launched an app.
Yeah.
I got to play with it a little bit yesterday.
Oh, cool.
I will say my favorite things so far, the like AR stickers.
Oh, yeah.
Who doesn't love putting a selfie?
Good filters.
Filter,
you know, I'm always in filter. Look. So, you know, I get it. You know, who doesn't love a good filter? You know, with the glasses, and you spin a bowling finger with the headband. My 3-month-old son, you know, I was messing with him and taking the pictures. Now there's a picture of him at 3 months spinning the ball with a headband on already. So that's pretty cool.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the app besides just the AR stickers that you guys have?
We have the AR stickers. We also have a real cool game that my 2-year-old likes to play.
The basketball.
And the basketball is real cool. And anywhere you at, no matter if you at home, on an airplane, anywhere around the world at any time, you can play a 3-point, 4-point, half-court contests with yourself and try to beat our highest score. I think right now the highest score is 151 points, if I'm not mistaken. The highest I ever got was 131. But you just, you know, you put the screen down, it measures the court, and you start shooting. It's a real fun game. You can go on there, you can go to our website and see when we're coming to your city. You can go on, you can go to Instagram and find out our profiles. You know, there's a lot of stuff you can do on there that's real cool, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool that with like the virtual basketball court, you literally can ball anywhere. Like ball is life.
Ball is definitely life. You can actually, you know, if you're tired or you in line at the DMV or something, you can sit down and, you know what, I'm gonna work on my game.
There you go.
You know, get you some shots up and get your little finger work in, tapping that ball and try to beat my high score.
It kind of reminds me of the old school paper football game that you used to play as a kid.
Yeah, you know what? I was nice. I was a beast at paper football. I'm sorry, I would smash you, but I'm just saying, I'm pretty good at most things, but it's okay. It's neither here nor there.
We're going to have to play a game afterwards.
Okay, let's do it.
So you guys travel a lot.
Yeah.
Go to cities all over the world.
Yes, sir.
When you're traveling, what's your must-have gadget?
My must-have gadget is actually my cell phone. I have to have my cell phone because, you know, I have to talk to my family.
Yeah.
You know, right now with the technology, the FaceTime, Skype, and different things like that, you're able to, you know, when I first got on the team, it was buying phone cards when you were overseas and hoping somebody there to answer the phone. But now with the technology we have with the cell phones, you get on there and I can just talk to my kids face to face and they can see that. Like I can help my daughters with their homework.
Yeah.
Or me and my son can watch, you know, TV together, you know. Also, my Fire Stick. You know, I can't go anywhere without my Fire Stick. I want to be able to watch everything that's on. I got to watch my Saints play every day, and I want to keep up with everything. And with having the phone now, having this app, you know, I'm able to, you know, go play the basketball game with my oldest daughter and send her my high score and tell her, hey, try to beat it.
Okay.
So you got your phone, Fire Stick. On your phone, what's your favorite app that you use every day besides the Globetrotter app, of course?
Besides the Globetrotter app, my favorite app that's on my phone right now, I play this little golf game. I just got into golf about 2 months ago. I'm not quite that good, but I'm not Charles Barkley either. Amazon Prime app on there. And I just like listening to music and stuff, you know, just little things like that. And when my teammates come up with something new, I like to try to participate and have some fun with them.
For sure.
For sure. So, obviously you're an Apple guy, it looks like.
Yeah.
How long have you been with Apple?
I've been with Apple, it's been a while, man. Before this, it was a BlackBerry.
Oh.
So I went from BlackBerry to iPhone.
That's a big change.
I didn't go in between. My wife made me. Well, she was my girlfriend at the time, but my wife upgraded the phone, and she made me upgrade to that. She made me upgrade to this. I think this is 8 Plus. I wanted to keep my 6 Plus, you know, but she got a new phone, so I'm on that account, so I had to get a new phone. Yeah, but I'm an Apple guy, but I like Android too.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
So, desert island scenario. You're only allowed to bring 3 gadgets.
Okay.
What are they?
I want to have my cell phone.
Okay.
I want to have, I need my mama gumbo.
Okay.
Because I just can eat all day.
Okay.
And I want my Fire Stick. Even though I might not have a TV, I may some kind of way, I might hook it to my phone and get it working. You never know.
You never know.
You never know.
So now I have a couple brain teasers for you.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. They're really important questions that, you know, everyone wants to know the answer to.
I have my degree.
All right. So, is a hot dog a sandwich?
Is a hot dog a sandwich? No, it's not.
Why?
Because a sandwich, you have lettuce. You got the option of putting lettuce, tomatoes. You know what I'm saying? Have you ever put lettuce and tomatoes on a hot dog? You can.
You can. I've never done it.
Right. And it's called a hot dog. It's not called a hot sandwich.
It's true. It's true.
You said, give me a pastrami sandwich. Give me a roast beef sandwich.
Yeah.
Man, hey, let me get one of them hot dog sandwiches. No, it doesn't work like that. It has its own name. You can't give it a name. Is this a football? Exactly.
Okay. And then when it comes to pizza, what's more important?
Okay.
Cheese or sauce?
Okay, so I'm from New Orleans.
Okay.
And, you know, we are the king and queens of food. But with pizza recently, I just stopped eating carbs. You know, that's why, you know, you make sure you got a wide angle of that. That's why I look so good today. But I think it's a combination of both. Because you can have so much cheese and there's no flavor. Or you can have all the flavor of the sauce, but if you don't have the cheese to complement it, you just eating bread and sauce. You might just garlic bread with sauce. You know, so I think you need them both. You know, I think you need them both. Honestly, I think you need both.
Okay. And
I'm pretty good at these brand teasers.
I know. I mean, we gotta ask them some tougher questions.
Yeah, step it up a little bit. Step it up a little bit.
So before we head out, where can people find more about you and the Globetrotters?
If you want to find out more about me and the Globetrotters, go to the app. Go to the app. That's one of the easiest things you can do. Go to your Play Store, Google Play, or the App Store. Download the app. You can see my story. We have videos of us doing different things. It links you to all our social media stuff. You can see what city we coming to. You can buy my jersey or any one of my teammates' jersey. You can do so much on the app. You basically just have that to be the only app on your phone.
Perfect.
Hey, well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Good luck. Have fun. Back to you, Greg.
All right, Greg.
Thanks, Riley. Thanks, Big Easy. Live there with Big Easy Lofton from the Harlem Globetrotters. I do want to clarify one thing, though, in that question of whether or not a hot dog is a sandwich. It is not a sandwich. It is its own category. It absolutely cannot be counted in the same thing. Fight me. I don't care. That's just the right answer to that one. All right. It's been so much fun here today. Digital Trends Live, broadcasting here live every weekday at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you all the latest tech headlines like we did at the start of the show with Adrian Warner. I think we were talking about Uber possibly acquiring Lime or I believe it was Bird, actually, one of the other ones, to acquire a scooter company to expand their offerings. It's already been, like we've talked about so many different things, I'm already forgetting what we brought up at the beginning of the show, which is great because you can go back and watch it afterward. All right, we had that. We had Dirk Ahlborn from Hyperloop Transportation Technologies hop on and talk about the future of Hyperloop. Very, very exciting. Rethinking transportation, thinking about it in a whole different way and when that's going to be adopted. Very fun talking to him. We went to our New York studio with Julian Trucatu, Jeremy Kaplan, to talk about 5G and the upcoming Qualcomm event that's happening later this week. We had a lot of really good talk about 5G. Jeremy, I still don't have any info. The data's not back on whether or not your shirt passed the test or not, but you can leave your comments, and if you leave those comments, we'll talk about them in Read 'em and Weep tomorrow. So leave your comments about Jeremy's shirt right there. We'll see how that works out. And then finally, of course, Big Easy Lofton from the Harlem Globetrotters with our own Riley out there talking to him. Every day, something different to talk about. Every day we bring you up to date, and every day we are live bringing you this content here from Digital Trends. And we want to thank everybody for tuning in. Hit subscribe. Hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you're watching to make sure you get the updates from us here at Digital Trends. And we have up-to-date content all day long, 24 hours a day. DigitalTrends.com, bringing you the latest in tech headlines and news. Anything you can think of, we probably have an article on it at Digital Trends. And thanks for watching us today. We'll be right back here tomorrow with a brand new episode of Digital Trends Live.